What is a home? I'm 27 years old, yet I can't even answer that. Empty. That's what I am. I've drowned in a lifetime of regrets, viewing myself as something other than human. At the very least, I'm someone beyond saving. As for destiny, it doesn't exist for me. Everything happens because of past decisions. The present is nothing more than a result, a direct consequence of the past. Things don't happen simply because they are written. Now, standing in the rain, surrounded by the only element that lets me connect with who I used to be, I looked up at the sky, or what was left of it, since black clouds had covered it completely. For some reason, the rain always starts at night on October 14th. It's as if the sky, in some twisted way, wants to remind me of that fateful day. The fire that started a massive blaze and eventually took everything from me. 18 years have passed since then. I stood frozen on the sidewalk. Around me, people ran for shelter, holding newspapers or plastic bags over their heads. I should have known. I'm going to be late. I bet I'll catch a cold. They cursed the sky. I kept walking until I found a bench in a plaza, somewhat distanced from the others. It was a bit dirty, but comfortable enough. As I sat down, the rain brought back the words I've always remembered. They resurfaced in my fragmented mind. The strong exist to protect the weak. I was only 8 when my mother taught me those words. I had simply asked what my teacher meant when she said, "Hikari, you are the best in the class." The younger me expected something simple, something I could understand. In a way, she did that. She told me I was special, unique. But she never answered whether I should calm down or think about what I wanted to become. She only said this: the strong exist to protect the weak. Your strength isn't made solely to hurt. It must have another purpose. The weak will remind you that you are human. I'm sorry, Mom, but you were wrong. No one was able to make me feel human. Since you left, everything turned to darkness. My name lost its meaning. There was no longer light, only shadows that consumed me until today. Mum, I miss you so much. But I wasn't originally this erased existence. In elementary school, I was the kind of child who made teachers smile unintentionally. How smart. How strong. How cheerful. How do you do it even when you're hungry? They were normal questions for children my age, but ones I could never confirm. Then the fire happened. A strange light drew me outside. By the time I realized what was happening, the house I loved so much was engulfed in flames. A man who always gave me candy held me back as if I were a wild animal. In retrospect, I was. I bit him, scratched him, kicked, and screamed. Yet he wouldn't let go. "They're inside! Let me go save them!" I'm sorry, kid. I'm so sorry. By the time the fire trucks arrived, the flames were already dying down. The fire chief wrapped me in a blanket and asked again and again if there was anyone else. I only pointed toward the house. They found my parents 3 hours later on the second floor, still embracing each other. The man holding me tried to shield my eyes, but I heard someone vomiting in the bushes. The hardest part was the funeral. Everyone said things like, "Poor thing," or "They're in a better place," as if death were better than a Saturday. At least they didn't suffer. But I had heard the paramedics talking. Later, I looked up smoke inhalation in the dictionary. They breathed until they fell asleep. But before that, they had to cough. They had to be terrified. They must have thought I was suffering the same fate, not knowing if I was safe. Hikari is a strong boy. I let out a cynical sigh. An 8-year-old boy didn't want to be strong. I wanted my mum. I wanted my dad. I wanted my own bed. Strength was the only thing left when you could no longer cry. Standing before the closed coffins, I felt nothing. They told me it wasn't appropriate for a child. My parents became secrets hidden in boxes. I couldn't even dress properly for the funeral, so I wore borrowed shoes. After that, I arrived at the orphanage. I lay on the bed in the corner, staring at the ceiling. The water stains formed silhouettes of continents. Mum used to play that game with me with the clouds. "What do you see, Hikari?" she would always ask. "A dragon," I would answer, pointing to a particularly large and fluffy cloud. "Yeah. And what is the dragon doing?" "He's flying to the castle to rescue the princess." She would laugh with that laugh that made everything seem better, hugging me tight. But now Mum wasn't here. The water stains weren't clouds. And no one asked me what I saw, because no one cared. Now only empty memories remain. A few years later, I joined the kendo club. It wasn't a personal choice. The orphanage counselor said I needed a way to release energy in a healthy manner, as if the problem were excess energy and not the lack of everything else. I wanted to laugh in his face. I wanted to ask him exactly how hitting other kids with bamboo swords was going to fill the hole the fire had left in my existence. How ironic. I became very good. As both a surprise and a punishment, I became the best in the club. Not because I stood out through effort or talent, but because I saw the world differently. In a way no one could ever understand. A kind of AI existed in my head. After my parents' death, it took control of my body. It slowly distanced me from feeling human. With every day that passed under its dominion, I stopped believing that this AI was part of me. That wasn't all. As I walked through the night on October 14th at exactly 10:38 p.m., letting the rain fall on me, I noticed something that froze me. It wasn't the weather. It was something else. Something far more mystical. When the drops hit my skin, I could feel each one of them. Not the sensation of getting wet, but something else. As if they were speaking to me. From that day on, I realized I could control water. But it wasn't something I commanded. It was a medium of communication. It wasn't an abstract concept or a strange power manipulated like in fairy tales. They were part of me, and I was part of them. Later, I realized I could do the same with the other elements. Though with fire, there was still hesitation. How could I expect fire to want to communicate with me when I wanted to reject it? However, over time I understood that the fire was not to blame. In fact, the therapist expected me to hate it or tremble before the flame of a small candle. But that never happened. I couldn't fear it. Even if I tried in the end, I understood that fire was passion, pure energy that gives warmth. It is simply there, just as I exist. It didn't choose to destroy my family that night, so I couldn't hate it. And now, at 27, under this rain that freezes me to the bone, if only I could return to being that child who laughed without pretending, who asked 1,000 questions. Return to having a mother who smelled like bread A father who, even if he was absent for work— Wait. I froze instantly. My father said something days before the fire. We were in this very park, right here where I am now. Higher, Dad, higher. If I push you higher, you'll go flying. I don't care, he laughed. But when he put me down, his face turned serious, as if he had a premonition. Hikari, listen well. No matter what happens, no matter how hard life gets, you have to live. Do you understand? Live fully. Don't just exist. Live. Dad, promise me. I promise.